Hi, I'm Nate with SNO-GO. On behalf of everyone here, we would like to thank you for joining the tribe and for purchasing your brand new SNO-GO. This video will walk you through step by step how to assemble your brand new bike. Let's get started. Here are the tools you will need: 10mm and 15mm wrench, 5mm, 4mm, and 2.5mm Allen keys. First, we will be assembling the rear ski mount assembly. Tools needed will be the 5mm Allen key and a 15mm wrench and thread lock. For this step, you'll need the 2 ski mounts, left and right, 6 SNO-GO bolts, 3 control arms. With your 3 control arms, start at the back and work forward. The rear control arm will be the one with the QR tail pivot pin already installed. Take apart 2 of your SNO-GO bolt assemblies so that the parts are easily accessible. Take 2 bolts and insert them through the outside holes on the control arm so that the back of the bolt is in contact with the exposed bearing face. Then insert your spacers into the grooves on the rear of the control arm and the plastic washer over the top of that. Insert control arm on the rear ski mount assembly. Add thread lock fluid to thread. Apply nylock nut and tighten the spec. Repeat this for the front control arms. Separate remaining bolts to install front control arms. This process will be the same as the rear. Start with the 4 outer bolts on these control arms. Make sure the head of the bolt is in contact with the bearing face. The spacer and washer inserts on the rear of the control arm and seats into the control arm. Add all 4 spacers and washers. Add thread lock to all bolts. Add nylock nuts and tighten to spec. Check to make sure that when picking up on one of the rear skis, it falls back to the floor on its own and does not stay stuck in the top position. If the ski does stay stuck, you may need to slightly loosen the SNO-GO bolts. Next, we'll be adding the center pivot assembly. This process is the same as when you added 3 control arms to the rear ski mounts. Take the remaining 2 sets of SNO-GO bolts and follow the same process. Insert the last 2 SNO-GO bolts, add spacer and washer, insert main tower, apply thread lock, and add the remaining 2 nylock nuts. tighten to spec. And that is the rear ski mount assembly. In this step, we'll be adding the frame to the rear ski mount assembly. Insert frame into center pivot assembly. Insert rear tail pivot assembly onto QR pin on rear control arm. Insert QR through bolt assembly through center pivot assembly. In this step, we'll be adding the fork to the frame. First, thread the fork through the head tube. So it's secure like that. Your retaining ring needs to be tapered side down onto the head tube. Then your retaining ring cover. Same thing, tapered side will be up on this step. Stem spacer. In this step, we'll be adding the stem to the fork tube. You will also take the stem cap cover and screw. Do not add thread lock to this screw. For this adjustment, you want that screw to be tight, but not tight enough that your fork does not rotate. There is also the stem cap screw black insert. Here you will add Loctite to this screw, which attaches your stem. In this step, you'll be adding the handlebars to the stem. For this step, you need to add thread lock to each bolt. You need to remove all four to be able to add the handlebars. Make sure to add Loctite to each bolt. You will need the 4mm Allen key for this step. Make sure that you tighten in a diagonal pattern. Here we'll be adding the front ski to the front ski mount assembly. To do this, you will loosen your front knob on the front ski. Slide into the front ski mount, tighten knob, make sure that it is secure. Now we will be adding the handle grips to the handlebars. We will tighten these later. Pretty easy, just slide them directly onto your handlebars, left and right. Here's your final step. You'll be adding the left and right binding to the rear ski mount assembly. The binding will be added on the inside of each ski mount. Add all 3 screws and add thread lock, then apply nylock nut and tighten. The position is personal to each rider. If you would like your bindings snug for greater control, move the binding backwards and set at its lowest setting. If you prefer to keep your feet free, move the binding forward and set it high. If you are unsure, simply place the binding in the middle and adjust to your preference after testing it on the hill. Now that the assembly process is finished, we're going to go through a few steps that help make sure that you have the bike assembled correctly. Check to make sure that when picking up on one of the skis, it falls back to the floor on its own. If the ski does stay stuck, you may need to slightly loosen the SNO-GO bolts. Check to make sure that your handlebars are straight and your stem is adjusted to your height properly. To do this, you'll use a 5mm Allen key, loosen the screw on the side of the head stem, and go down or up depending on your height. We're going to make sure that your handle grips are tight and in a comfortable position. To do this, you will need your 2.5mm Allen key. To do it, I like to stand on the bike, make sure that the grips are in a comfortable position. I'll step off and tighten the grips in that position. Lastly is the safety belt. To do this, you're going to thread the belt through the front side closest to the clip. Pull that through. The other side will thread back down so that it looks like that. Release the belt with these 2 clips. You'll apply the belt. You can tighten and or loosen to your body. The safety harness on the bike. And the last thing you're going to do is make sure that everything is comfortable and fit to you. To do this, you want to make sure that you have slight bend in your knees, your back is straight, you're not too slouched over, you're not too far back. After that, you're ready to shred. Go hit the slopes and have a good time. Thank you.